Valentine's Day had always been a bittersweet occasion for me. It wasn't that I had anything against love. In fact, I had been in love once. But that was years ago, before everything changed, before I stopped believing in fairy tales and happy endings. This year, I had planned to spend the evening alone, like I had for the past 3 years. A bottle of whiskey, a stack of old movies, and the quiet comfort of my apartment. That was the plan, at least, until I got the text. It was from Lisa. We hadn't spoken in months, not since the last time I tried to reach out and got nothing but silence in return. Seeing her name light up my phone sent a shock through me. My thumb hovered over the screen before I finally opened the message. "Can we talk? It's important." I should have ignored it. I should have told myself that whatever she wanted to say, it wasn't worth reopening old wounds. But instead, I found myself typing back before I could stop myself. "Where?" Her reply came almost instantly. "The diner. Our spot." The last time I'd seen Lisa was at that same diner, 2 years ago. It was where we had broken up. I hadn't set foot inside since, but something about the urgency of her message made me push aside my hesitation. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was hope. Either way, I grabbed my coat and keys before I could change my mind. The drive to the diner was eerily quiet. The streets were lined with couples, laughing and holding hands, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. When I pulled into the parking lot, I saw her immediately. She was sitting in a booth by the window, staring at her hands. I stepped inside and she looked up. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then she gave me a weak smile. Hey, I replied, sliding into the booth across from her. "What's going on?" Lisa took a deep breath, her fingers twisting the napkin in her lap. "I need your help," I frowned. "With what?" She hesitated, glancing around as if checking to see if anyone was listening. Then she leaned in, lowering her voice. "Someone's following me." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" Lisa swallowed. "It started a few weeks ago. At first, I thought I was imagining things. A car parked outside my apartment, always the same one. Someone standing just a little too long outside my work. But then, last night..." She trailed off, gripping the napkin tighter. "Lisa," I said carefully. "What happened last night?" She took another breath, trying to steady herself. "Someone was inside my apartment." My blood went cold. "I came home late," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "I locked the door, like I always do. But when I walked into my bedroom, my closet door was open. I never leave it open." My hands clenched into fists. "Did you call the police?" She nodded. "They checked everything, but they didn't find anything. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing. They think I'm just being paranoid." "But you don't think that," I said. She shook her head. "No, I know someone was there, and I know they're still watching me." I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. This wasn't what I had expected when I agreed to meet her. But looking at the fear in her eyes, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let her face this alone. That night, I drove Lisa back to her apartment. The entire ride, she kept glancing at the rearview mirror, as if expecting to see someone following us. I checked too, but the roads were empty. When we arrived, I walked her to the door. The place was small but tidy, filled with the scent of lavender. I checked the locks on the windows and doors while Lisa stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed. "I can stay on the couch tonight," I offered. She hesitated before nodding. "Thank you. I didn't sleep much." Every creak, every whisper of wind against the window made my senses go on high alert. But nothing happened. The night passed without incident. The next morning I made coffee while Lisa showered. As I poured a second cup, I noticed something strange on the kitchen counter. A single red rose. My stomach tightened. I had seen Lisa's reaction to Valentine's Day. She wouldn't have left that there. "Lisa," I called. She emerged from the hallway, a towel wrapped around her hair. When she saw what I was holding, her face drained of color. "I didn't put that there," she whispered. We exchanged a look. Without another word, I grabbed my phone and called the police. The next few days were a blur of interviews and security checks. Lisa moved in with me for the time being, too afraid to stay in her apartment. I installed cameras around my place, double-checked the locks every night, but the feeling of being watched never went away. Then, on Valentine's night, Lisa found an envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a single Polaroid. It was a picture of her sleeping, taken from inside my apartment. we weren't safe. That night, I made a decision. Instead of running, I needed to fight back. I called a friend, a former private investigator, and explained everything. We set up a trap, cameras, alarms, even a fake move-out. And then, we waited. On the third night, at exactly 3:12 a.m., the motion sensor went off. My heart pounded as I checked the monitor. A shadow moved through the living room, cautious but deliberate. I grabbed the baseball bat beside my bed and crept toward the door. My friend was waiting outside with his gun, ready. The intruder stopped by Lisa's door and slowly reached for the knob. I didn't hesitate. I swung the bat with everything I had. The figure collapsed with a grunt. The gun my friend carried clicked as he stepped inside. The man groaned, trying to move, but we pinned him down. The police arrived minutes later. Lisa and I watched as they unmasked him. It was her ex-boyfriend, the one she thought had moved out of state, the one who had always been obsessed with her. Lisa was shaking. I pulled her close, promising her it was over. Valentine's Day would never be the same for either of us, but at least, for the first time in years, we were finally safe. It all started 3 years ago in Chicago. I had been dating Julia for about a year, and we had made plans to spend the evening together. I had arranged a dinner at her favorite restaurant, a place that overlooked the lake, where the city lights danced over the water like fireflies trapped under glass. The reservation had taken weeks to secure, but I wanted everything to be perfect. I spent the afternoon rehearsing what I would say, playing out different scenarios in my head. Would she cry? Would she laugh? Would she pull me in for a kiss before I could even slip the ring onto her finger? I was excited, nervous even, because that night, I planned to propose. I had imagined every possible outcome, except for the one that actually happened. The day had been normal, cold and gray, typical of a Midwest winter. The roads were slick with half-melted snow, and the sidewalks lined with slush. I had left work early to make sure everything was perfect. I picked up the ring, running my fingers over the small velvet box, feeling the weight of what it symbolized. I double-checked our reservations, mentally rehearsing how I would kneel down and ask Julia the most important question of my life. To complete the evening, I stopped by her favorite florist and bought a bouquet of white lilies, their fragrance filling my car as I drove, a quiet promise of the perfect night ahead. But Julia never showed up. At first, I tried to stay calm. Maybe she got caught up at work, maybe she lost track of time. But as the minutes turned into an hour, then 2, my unease grew into full-blown anxiety. I called her, sent texts, no response. Julia was never the type to ignore her phone. A deep pit formed in my stomach as I grabbed my coat and rushed to her apartment. The roads, once filled with the warmth of Valentine celebrations, now seemed eerily quiet. When I pulled up, her car wasn't in the driveway. That was the first real sign that something was wrong. I ran up the steps, pounded on the door. No answer. I called her friends, her sister. No one had heard from her. Each conversation only deepened my fear. The idea that she had simply forgotten our plans or had fallen asleep was no longer plausible. That's when panic took hold. I called the police, my voice shaking as I tried to explain. But they dismissed me, telling me I had to wait 24 hours before she could be considered missing. As if a ticking clock determined the validity of my fear. I knew something had happened. Julia wouldn't just disappear, and I wasn't going to wait to find out what had gone wrong. I spent the night driving around the city, retracing places we'd been, searching for anything. I drove past the bookstore where she liked to linger, the coffee shop where she always ordered the same drink. It felt like I was looking for a ghost. My heart pounded with every passing hour. Then, around 3 a.m., I got a call. A number I didn't recognize. When I answered, there was silence at first, then a man's voice, low and calm. "She's not coming back." My body went cold. "Who is this?" I demanded, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. "You should stop looking," the voice said, and then the line went dead. I tried calling back, but there was nothing. The number was disconnected. I went straight to the police with the call log, but they said it could have been a prank. They still wouldn't treat Julia as a missing person. I felt helpless, furious. Every hour that passed felt like I was losing her forever. Days turned into weeks. The police eventually opened an investigation, but there was no trace of Julia. No surveillance footage of her anywhere after she left work that day. Her phone last pinged near her apartment, but then, nothing. It was as if she had been erased from existence. I became obsessed. I spent months chasing dead ends, losing myself in theories. Maybe she had run away, maybe she had been taken, but by who and why? Then almost a year later, on Valentine's Day, I got another call. The same voice. You should have stopped looking. I barely had time to react before a loud crash came from outside my apartment. I rushed to the window. My car's windshield had been shattered. A single white lily lay on the hood. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, there was nothing they could do. No security footage, no witnesses, no clues, just another dead end. That was the last time I ever heard from him. I never found out what happened to Julia. Her case remains open but cold, gathering dust in some forgotten drawer. Every Valentine's Day, I leave a white lily by the lake, hoping that maybe, somewhere, she'll see it. And every year, I wonder if someone is watching me, waiting for the moment I finally let go, but I never will.